Welcome to Story Tales. Please like this video and subscribe to Story Tales. I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin.
Lennox Shaw stood motionless on the tarmac, her designer luggage arranged in a neat line beside her. The April wind whipped her dark hair across her face, but she made no move to brush it away. Her eyes remained fixed on the sleek, private jet emblazoned with the Maddox Jetline logo, a stylized silver M against midnight blue. "Mrs. Maddox, I'm sure there's just been a misunderstanding," said Vera, Callan's personal assistant. The young woman's voice quavered slightly as she checked her tablet for the fifth time in as many minutes. Lennox didn't respond. She'd learned long ago that silence made people uncomfortable, made them reveal more than they intended. She simply waited, her posture perfect, a remnant from 15 years of ballet training. Her phone buzzed. A text from Callan. Change of plans. Taking the boys to Miami for a quick deal. Back Monday. Before she could respond, another message arrived, bringing Kim along. PR needs FaceTime with clients. Lennox's jaw tightened. Kim, the new PR manager, with a suspiciously perfect resume and the habit of working late nights at Callan's office. The jet's engines roared to life. Through the tinted windows, she saw Movement Callan and his two business partners, glasses raised in a toast. And beside them, a woman with long blonde hair, laughing at something Callan had said. Lennox took 3 steps toward the plane, then stopped as the cabin door began to close. Through the narrowing gap, she caught Callan's eye. He looked directly at her, raised his glass in a mocking salute, and winked. The door sealed shut. The jet began to move. "Mrs. Maddox, I don't understand. Your name isn't on the—" Vera fumbled with her tablet. "Call me Lennox," she said, her voice steady despite the rage building inside her. "And I understand perfectly." She watched the jet taxi down the runway and lift into the sky, taking her husband away. Her hands trembled slightly, but her eyes remained dry. 13 years of marriage. Reduced to a mocking toast through a window, Vera shifted uncomfortably. "Should I arrange for a car to take you home?" "No." Lennox pulled out her phone and opened the airline app. "Book me on the next first-class flight to Paris." "Paris? But Mr. Maddox." "Mr. Maddox is no longer my concern." Lennox found what she was looking for. "There's a flight leaving in 2 hours. That will give me time to make a few calls." Vera blinked rapidly. "I should really check with—" "Your loyalty is admirable, Vera, but unnecessary." Lennox pressed confirm on her booking. "You can tell Callan I've gone to clear my head. Or don't tell him anything at all. I doubt he'll ask." For the first time since the jet took off, Lennox smiled. It wasn't a warm expression. "Actually, I have a better idea. Tell him I said thank you." "Thank you? For what?" Lennox picked up her bags. "For finally showing me who he really is." The Hotel Lion So was everything a boutique Paris hotel should be: intimate, stylish, and discreet. From her suite, Lennox could see the Eiffel Tower through rain-streaked windows. She hadn't slept during the 8-hour flight, using the time instead to make arrangements and review financial documents. A knock at the door broke her concentration. "It's open," she called. Oriana Kemp swept into the room like a force of nature. Tall, with close-cropped hair and jewelry that caught the light with every movement, she commanded attention without effort. "You look like hell," Oriana said, dropping her designer bag on a chair and crossing to embrace Lennox. "And you look exactly the same," Lennox replied, stepping into her friend's arms. "Never aging. It's irritating." Oriana pulled back to study Lennox's face. "So, he finally did it." In spectacular fashion, Lennox moved to the bar and poured 2 glasses of bourbon. "Left me standing at the airport while he flew off with his new toy. And you're here instead of burning his clothes on the lawn. Interesting." Oriana accepted the glass. "What are you planning, Lennox?" "Who says I'm planning anything?" "Please, I've known you since you were 22. You don't retreat. You regroup. Oriana took a seat on the plush sofa. So tell me everything. Lennox sat opposite her friend. Remember when you warned me about him? Which time? There were several. The first time, at that industry party in Monaco, you said, "That man will love himself more than he'll ever love you." Oriana swirled her drink. I was trying to save you from my mistakes. Because you loved him once. I was infatuated with him. There's a difference. Oriana's expression hardened. And then I saw him for what he was, a man who collects beautiful things to display, not to cherish. Lennox nodded slowly. I thought I would be different. That what we had was different. She laughed, a brittle sound. I gave up everything for him, you know. My career, my independence. All to be the perfect corporate wife. The ballerina who stopped dancing. Oriana's voice was gentle. I never understood that. He said it wasn't compatible with his image. A CEO's wife needed to be sophisticated, not sweaty. Lennox drained her glass. And I believed him. I let him reshape me into what he needed. Until now. Lennox stood and walked to the window. I should have left the first time I found evidence of his cheating. But I convinced myself it was a mistake, that it wouldn't happen again. And instead it became a pattern. One I allowed. Lennox turned back to her friend. Did I ever tell you about Jace Rowan? Callan's CFO? The one who looks like he's perpetually smelling something foul. That's him. From day one, he treated me like I was invisible. Or worse, like I was an inconvenience. Lennox refilled their glasses. At company functions, he would physically turn his back to me mid-conversation, as if my thoughts were irrelevant. Sounds like they deserve each other. They do, and they're about to discover exactly what happens when you underestimate someone for too long. Lennox pulled her laptop toward her. 6 months ago, I started buying company stock through shell corporations. Small amounts. Nothing that would trigger any alarms. Oriana leaned forward. How much? 11%. Lennox. And there's something else. A clause in our prenup. Lennox opened a file. Callan was so confident I would never leave him that he barely reviewed it after the initial draft. He missed an amendment my lawyer slipped in, which states that in the event of public infidelity, I gain veto power in any company restructuring. Lennox turned the screen toward Oriana, and I have photographic evidence of him boarding that plane with Kim. Oriana's eyes widened. You've been planning this. Let's call it preparing for inevitability. Lennox closed the laptop. I'm not just going to leave him, Oriana. I'm going to take everything from him, starting with his company. And what can I do to help? There was no hesitation in Oriana's voice. I thought you'd never ask. Lennox picked up her phone. How do you feel about going into the aviation business? 30,000 feet above the Atlantic, Callan Maddox was in his element. Sprawled in a custom leather seat, he held court for his audience, his business partners, and the captivating new PR manager who hung on his every word. So I said to the board, "Gentlemen, in this industry you either innovate or evaporate." He paused for the appreciative laughter. They approved the expansion budget that afternoon. "You always did have a way with words," said Jace Rowan, raising his glass. Kim placed her hand on Callan's arm. "That's why the media loves you. You're quotable." Callan covered her hand with his, letting his touch linger longer than was professionally appropriate. He was already picturing how she would look in his Miami penthouse. His phone pinged with an email notification. He glanced at it, ready to ignore it, but the subject line caught his attention. Notice of ownership reassessment. Maddox Jetline Holdings frowning. He opened the message.mr. Maddox. This serves as formal notification that Lennox Shaw Maddox has acquired voting rights for 11% of Maddox Jetline holdings through various investment vehicles over the past 6 months. Per Section 17.3 of your prenuptial agreement attached, evidence of public infidelity activates Ms. Shaw Maddox's veto power in all company restructuring decisions. Attached, please find photographic evidence meeting the criteria outlined in the agreement. All communication regarding this matter should be directed to Auden Reese, legal representative for Ms. Shaw Maddox. Regards. Reese and Associates. Attached was a series of photographs taken at the airport. Callan boarding the jet with Kim, his hand placed possessively on the small of her back. His mocking toast to Lennox through the window. All time-stamped and authenticated. The color drained from Callan's face. "Everything okay, boss?" asked Jace, leaning forward as Callan's phone began to vibrate continuously. Text messages, missed calls, voicemails. His entire executive team trying to reach him at once. Kim peered at his screen. "What's happening?" "Nothing," Callan snapped, suddenly standing. "Just a minor legal issue." He moved to the private cabin at the rear of the jet, slamming the door behind him. With shaking hands, he opened the prenup attachment and scrolled to section 17.3. There it was, in black and white, a clause he had never noticed, hidden among pages of standard legal language. Callan tried calling Lennox. Straight to voicemail. Again and again with the same result. He texted her. "What the hell do you think you're doing? Answer your phone. Now, this is MY Company. You can't do this. Lennox, I swear to God." No response. Just the silent, damning evidence of her preparation. She had been planning this for months, while he thought she was oblivious. Playing the devoted wife, while secretly positioning herself to strike. By the time the jet landed in Miami, Callan had 155 unread messages and 47 missed calls. And not a single word from his wife. The conference room in Oriana's Paris office had become Lennox's war room. Laptops, tablets, and multiple phones covered the sleek table. A digital countdown on the wall displayed 72 hours, 14 minutes, and 55 seconds. Just over 3 days until the industry gala where Callan was set to receive an innovation award. Lennox paced as she spoke. "We need 3 things: information, leverage, and timing. I have the stock percentage and the legal leverage, but we need more." Across from her sat Auden Reese, her half-brother and a formidable entertainment lawyer. With his tailored suit and perpetually amused expression, he looked more like a movie star playing a lawyer than an actual attorney. "The board is already panicking," Auden said, scrolling through messages on his phone. "2 of them called me this morning, trying to feel out what you want." "And what did you tell them?" "That my client is considering her options." Auden grinned. They nearly wet themselves. Oriana entered with a petite woman whose nervous energy was palpable. "Lennox, this is Delia Vaughn, former financial analyst at Maddox Jetline." Delia clutched a tablet to her chest like a shield. "Mrs. Maddox, It's Ms. Shaw," Lennox corrected gently. "Please sit down." "Sorry, I'm a little nervous." Delia perched on the edge of a chair. "When Ms. Kemp contacted me, I almost didn't come. I signed an NDA when I left the company." "When you were fired," Oriana clarified. Delia nodded, her jaw tightening. "Yes, when I was fired." Lennox sat across from her. "Tell me what happened, Delia." "I worked for Maddox Jetline for 4 years. I was good at my job, really good. I caught accounting irregularities that saved the company millions." Delia's voice grew stronger as she spoke. "Then I got pregnant. My husband and I had been trying for 2 years, so we were thrilled." "And Callan wasn't," Lennox guessed. "He said my condition would be disruptive to the team dynamic, that I wouldn't be able to maintain the hours required." Delia's hands clenched into fists. 2 weeks later, I was let go. Departmental restructuring, they called it. And the severance package? Minimal. with a strict NDA that prevented me from speaking about anything related to the company, including the financial irregularities you found. Auden surmised. Delia nodded. What if I could offer you triple what you were making at Maddox Jetline? Lennox asked, plus a contract that guarantees maternity benefits and flexible work arrangements. Delia's eyes widened. To do what exactly? To tell me everything you know about the company's finances, every shortcut, every hidden account, every questionable transaction. Lennox leaned forward. I want to know where all the bodies are buried, Delia. A slow smile spread across Delia's face. In that case, you're going to need more hard drives. The door opened again, and Oriana ushered in a woman with a geometric undercut and multiple ear piercings. Everyone, this is Noor Elman, digital strategist extraordinaire, and the reason 3 fashion houses changed their entire fall collections last year. Noor nodded coolly. That leak wasn't supposed to be traced back to me. It wasn't, Oriana replied, but I know your work anywhere. Lennox extended her hand. Thank you for coming, Noor. I understand you and Oriana have history. Ancient history. Noor shook Lennox's hand firmly. I'm here because she said you're planning something big enough to be worth my time. How does dismantling one of the most exclusive aviation companies in the world sound? Noor raised an eyebrow, like the kind of chaos I can get behind. What's your timeline? 3 days. Lennox pointed to the countdown clock. Can you build a campaign in that time? I've done more with less. Noor pulled out her laptop. What assets do we have? Delia raised her hand slightly. Financial records showing systematic underpayment of female employees compared to male counterparts in the same positions. Employee testimonials, added Oriana. I've been quietly collecting them for years. Former flight attendants, engineers, even pilots who left because of the toxic culture. And I have something special, Lennox said, retrieving a thumb drive from her bag. Security camera footage from Callan's office. He doesn't know I have access to it. Noor's eyes lit up. Oh, this is going to be good. Lennox looked around the room at her assembled team. I've been preparing for this moment ever since I found lipstick on Callan's collar 3 years ago. I just needed him to cross a line that couldn't be explained away. And leaving you at the airport was that line? Asked Auden. No. Lennox's expression hardened. Laughing as he did it was. The Metropolitan Ballroom glittered with the collective wealth of the aviation industry's elite. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light over tables adorned with white orchids and gold accents. Champagne flowed freely as executives and celebrities mingled, all dressed in their finest AT, precisely 8:47 p.m. Every phone in the room seemed to vibrate simultaneously. Lennox, standing near the entrance in a striking black gown, watched as faces changed from confusion to shock. Some gasped audibly. Others quickly excused themselves to make calls. A few glanced furtively toward where Callan stood near the stage, still blissfully unaware of what was happening. It's live, Noor murmured beside her, watching the analytics on her tablet. 5,000 shares in the first minute. 10,000. 20,000. She looked up at Lennox. It's going viral. The campaign was devastating in its simplicity. #Maddox Uncovered had launched across all platforms simultaneously. Videos of Callan berating employees. Financial charts showing the pay gap between male and female staff. Testimonials from former workers, their faces blurred but their stories clear and consistent. And most damaging of all, audio of Callan and Jace Rowan discussing how to encourage pregnant employees to leave voluntarily to avoid severance costs. How's our guest of honor taking it? Lennox asked, not looking in Callan's direction. Oriana, elegant in emerald green, nodded toward the stage. See for yourself. Callan was staring at his phone, his face ashen. Jace stood beside him, speaking urgently into his ear. The event coordinator approached, gesturing toward the stage where the presenter was already introducing the Innovation Award. "Mr. Maddox," the coordinator said, loud enough for those nearby to hear. "They're ready for you." Callan looked up, seeming disoriented. His eyes scanned the room until they locked with Lennox's. For a moment, recognition flashed across his face, followed quickly by rage. "Mr. Maddox," the coordinator repeated. Callan stumbled toward the stage, straightening his tie with trembling hands. The applause was noticeably subdued as he took the podium. "Thank you," he began, his voice strained. "It's an honor to—" His phone rang loudly. He glanced at it, then switched it off. "As I was saying, innovation has always been at the heart of—" 3 more phones rang in quick succession. Someone near the front called out, "Is it true about the harassment settlements, Maddox?" Callan's expression froze. "I don't know what you're referring to. If I could continue—" "What about the offshore accounts?" called another voice. Sweat beaded on Callan's forehead. "These are baseless accusations that—" His phone began ringing again, despite being switched off. He fumbled with it, accidentally answering on speaker. "Callan." Jace's voice blared through the ballroom. "The board is calling an emergency meeting. Sponsors are pulling out. We need to—" Callan disconnected the call, but the damage was done. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Reporters who had come to cover a routine industry event suddenly sensed a much bigger story. "I apologize, but I have to." Callan stepped back from the podium, nearly knocking over the award. He half ran, half stumbled from the stage. As he passed Lennox, he grabbed her arm. "What have you done?" he hissed. Lennox removed his hand as if removing a piece of lint. "I haven't done anything, Callan. I'm just here to witness." "This is my company you're destroying." "Your company?" Lennox raised an eyebrow. "Check your email." Security approached, responding to the disturbance. Callan released her and backed away, pulling out his phone. His face contorted as he read whatever had just arrived. "You can't do this," he said, his voice breaking. "You wouldn't know the first thing about running Maddox jet line." "You're right," Lennox agreed. "That's why it won't be called that anymore." Cameras flashed as Callan was escorted from the ballroom, his carefully cultivated image crumbling before the eyes of everyone who mattered in his world. Oriana appeared at Lennox's side, offering a glass of champagne. "Feeling satisfied?" "Not yet." Lennox took the glass. "But it's a start." Lennox knew Callan would retaliate. What surprised her was how quickly he did it. Less than 12 hours after the gala, he appeared on Morning America, looking haggard but sympathetic in a carefully casual sweater. Gone was the slick CEO, replaced by a man presenting himself as the victim of a vindictive campaign. "I understand my wife is hurt," he told the interviewer, his voice soft and measured. "Our marriage has been strained for years by Lennox's emotional instability." Lennox watched the interview from Auden's Manhattan apartment, surrounded by her team. Her expression remained neutral, but her knuckles whitened around her coffee mug. "He's playing the mental health card," Auden observed. "Predictable." On screen, Callan continued. "Lennox has struggled with anxiety and paranoia throughout our marriage. I've tried to be supportive, but when she became convinced I was unfaithful, there was no reasoning with her." "Bastard," muttered Delia. "And now she's trying to destroy a company that employs over 300 people," Callan said, his eyes glistening with manufactured emotion. "All because of delusions that I've been unfaithful." The interviewer leaned forward. "Mr. Maddox, there are videos circulating of you with a young woman who is not your wife. How do you explain those?" "Kim Novak is our head of public relations. We were traveling to Miami for client meetings." Callan shook his head sadly. "Lennox has taken a professional relationship and twisted it into something sordid because of her condition." Nor snorted. His condition is going to be unemployment if we have anything to say about it. Lennox. Oriana studied her friend's face. What are you thinking? Lennox set down her mug and picked up her phone. Release the videos. Nor hesitated. All of them. We were saving the worst for. All of them. Now. Lennox's voice was steel. And call Maribel Cruz at Global News. Tell her I'm ready to talk. Within an hour, new footage flooded social media. Callan screaming at his assistant when she brought him the wrong coffee. Callan referring to economy-class passengers as cattle, who were lucky to breathe the same air as his premium clients. Callan making crude remarks about female employees' bodies when he thought no one was listening. The most damaging clip showed Callan and Jace in the executive boardroom after hours, drinking and laughing about a client who had spent stupid money on unnecessary upgrades. These idiots will pay anything if you tell them it's exclusive, Callan slurred. Half these luxury features cost us nothing to implement. By noon, Callan's carefully crafted interview was being torn apart by commentators. By 2 o'clock, 3 major clients had publicly severed ties with Maddox Jetline. By 4, the company's stock had dropped 17%. And at 6, Lennox sat across from Maribel Cruz in a live interview, wearing a simple blue dress that conveyed professionalism rather than vengeance. Let me be clear, Lennox said, her voice steady. This isn't about a marriage falling apart. This is about a company culture that devalues women, exploits workers, and misleads clients. Your husband claims you're doing this out of emotional instability, Maribel noted. That's a convenient narrative, isn't it? When women stand up for themselves, they're emotional. When they demand accountability, they're unstable. Lennox smiled slightly. The numbers speak for themselves. The videos speak for themselves. I'm simply making sure they're heard. And what about the reports that you've purchased a significant portion of Maddox Jetline stock? I believe in what the company could be, not what it is under its current leadership. Lennox leaned forward, which is why I'm announcing a new venture tonight. Oriana Kemp and I are launching Nova Air, a luxury charter service that prioritizes ethical business practices and employee welfare. And you've already signed 2 former Maddox Jetline clients. 3 as of this afternoon. Lennox's smile widened. It turns out clients appreciate knowing they're not being mocked behind closed doors. As the interview concluded, Lennox's phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. You think you've won? This is just getting started. I built this company from nothing once. I can do it again. And this time, you won't be along for the ride. Lennox deleted the message without responding. She didn't need to. Her actions were response enough. That night, Lennox stood at the window of her New York apartment, watching the city lights. The adrenaline of the day had faded, leaving a hollow ache behind her ribs. Not regret, she would never regret bringing Callan to his knees, but a deeper pain rooted in old wounds. Oriana found her there, 2 glasses of bourbon in hand. You should be celebrating, she said, offering one to Lennox. Instead, you're brooding in the dark. Just thinking. Lennox accepted the drink. About my mother. Lennox took a sip, letting the liquor burn its way down her throat. She would have seen this coming from the beginning. Lennox rarely spoke about her childhood, but tonight, with the walls she'd built around Callan crumbling, other barriers seemed to be weakening as well. She was a jazz singer, small clubs mostly, but brilliant. When she performed, people couldn't look away. Lennox's reflection shimmered in the window, but she had terrible taste in men. My father was the worst charming, successful, and completely self-absorbed. Sounds familiar, Oriana said quietly. He left when I was 7, just walked out one day and never came back. Lennox swirled her drink. My mother fell apart, started drinking, then moved on to harder things. By the time I was 16, I was practically raising myself. You never told me. It's not something I advertise. Lennox turned from the window. She used to tell me, "Never trust a man who loves his reflection more than he loves you." I should have listened. We all make mistakes, Lennox. No, I made a choice. I saw who Callan was and married him anyway, because he represented stability, security. Lennox's laugh was bitter. The very things my mother couldn't provide. And now I'm correcting that mistake. Lennox drained her glass. But this isn't about being angry. Rage is a luxury I can't afford right now. Oriana studied her friend. Then what is it about? Breaking a pattern. Lennox set down her empty glass. My mother let men destroy her. I won't do the same, even if it means becoming as ruthless as Callan. I'm not like him. Lennox's voice hardened. Everything I'm doing is in the open. Every accusation is backed by evidence. I'm not destroying him, Oriana. I'm exposing him. And enjoying it a little. Oriana's tone was light, but her eyes were serious. I won't apologize for that. Lennox moved to refill their glasses. He had every advantage, every opportunity to be better. He chose this. Oriana accepted her refreshed drink. To consequences, then. To consequences. Lennox raised her glass. And to never needing anyone enough to forget who you are. The Maddox Jetline boardroom had always intimidated by design. 60 floors above Manhattan, with views that reminded visitors of the rarefied air they breathed. The table, a single slab of polished walnut, could seat 24, though the board itself consisted of only 12 members. Callan had once explained to Lennox that the oversized table was psychological warfare, making each person feel smaller, more isolated during negotiations. Today, that tactic would work against him. Lennox entered precisely 3 minutes before the emergency board meeting was scheduled to begin. She wore a white suit the opposite of mourning and carried only a small portfolio. Behind her came Auden, Delia, and 2 associates from Auden's firm, all similarly prepared. Callan already sat at the head of the table, his customary position. Jace flanked him on the right, whispering urgently. The remaining board members, a mix of investors and industry veterans, watched Lennox's approach with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. "What is she doing here?" demanded Jace, standing abruptly. "This is a closed meeting." Auden stepped forward. "My client holds 11% of company shares and has veto power in restructuring decisions, as outlined in her agreement with Mr. Maddox. She has every right to be here." "This is absurd," Callan snapped. "The agreement was personal, not corporate." "Actually," said a voice from the doorway, "it's both." All heads turned to see Howard Geller, the company's lead counsel, enter with a stack of documents. "I've reviewed the paperwork. Ms. Shaw's position is legally sound." "You work for me, Howard," Callan said through gritted teeth. "I work for Maddox Jetline," Howard corrected mildly. "And right now my job is to provide sound legal advice to the board." He distributed copies of the document. "Ms. Shaw does indeed have the right to attend this meeting and vote her shares." Lennox took a seat halfway down the table, neither claiming too much power nor allowing herself to be marginalized. "Shall we begin? I believe time is of the essence, given yesterday's developments." The board chair, Thomas Nichols, cleared his throat. "Yes. Well, the agenda today is to address the public relations crisis and its impact on company valuation. Since yesterday's events, our stock has dropped 23%. 3 major clients have canceled their contracts, and 2 potential investors have withdrawn their interest. All because of a vindictive smear campaign," Callan interjected, "which can be countered with the right strategy." "What strategy would that be?" asked Barbara Winters, one of the few female board members. "The videos don't exactly leave much room for interpretation, Callan. They're taken out of context. Anyone can be made to look bad with selective editing." I brought the unedited footage, Lennox offered, opening her portfolio. We can review it now if you'd like. All 6 hours. Callan glared at her. This is a waste of time. We need to focus on damage control. I agree, said Thomas, which is why the executive committee has prepared a motion. He glanced around the table. In light of recent events, we propose a temporary leadership change while an internal investigation is conducted. Absolutely not. Callan's fist came down on the table. I built this company. I am this company. That's precisely the problem, Barbara said. The public now associates Maddox Jet Line exclusively with your behavior. We need distance. You can't remove me. I hold 30% of the shares, which is not the majority, Thomas pointed out. If the remaining board votes unanimously, they won't. Callan looked around the table. Dean, Maxwell, Philip, you know what I've done for this company. For all of you. The 3 men he named shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing. Lennox decided it was time. Before we vote, there's something the board should see. She nodded to Delia, who distributed a new set of documents. These are financial records showing irregularities in client billing, tax reporting, and expense accounts. What the hell is this? Jace demanded, flipping through the pages. Evidence of financial misconduct, Delia replied calmly, including a shell company registered to Kim Novak that has received over $2 million in consulting fees in the past year. The room went deathly silent. That's impossible, Callan finally said. These records are sealed. I designed the sealing system, Delia reminded him, before you fired me for being pregnant. Barbara Winters examined the documents closely. If these are accurate, we're looking at potential fraud charges. They're forgeries, Callan insisted, his face reddening. She's trying to frame me. The records can be independently verified, Auden offered. We've prepared subpoena requests if necessary. Thomas cleared his throat again. In light of this new information, I move to vote immediately on the leadership change. Second, said Barbara. All in favor? Thomas asked. Hands rose around the table, first Barbara's, then Dean's, followed by Maxwell and Philip, despite Callan's earlier appeal. One by one, each board member voted until only Callan, Jace, and Lennox remained. Opposed? Thomas continued. Callan and Jace raised their hands. Abstentions? Lennox raised her hand. I don't need to vote. The outcome is clear. This is 8 votes for, 2 against, 1 abstention, Thomas confirmed. The motion carries. Callan Maddox is removed as CEO pending investigation. You can't do this to me, Callan growled, rising from his chair. I'll sue every one of you. With what evidence? Asked Howard Geller. The company's legal resources are no longer at your disposal. Callan lunged across the table toward Lennox. You think you've won? This isn't over. Security guards, summoned by Thomas's discreet signal, entered the room and moved swiftly to restrain Callan. Remove Mr. Maddox from the premises, Thomas ordered, and revoke his access credentials. As the guards escorted a struggling Callan toward the door, he shouted back at Lennox, You're nothing without me. Nothing. Lennox remained seated, straightening the documents before her with steady hands. Only when Callan was gone did she speak, her voice carrying clearly through the stunned silence. Let this be a reminder, she said, meeting each person's gaze in turn. I don't forgive. I restructure. The sun was setting behind the Manhattan skyline when Lennox received the text. We need to talk. Privately. Your apartment. 8 p.m. She considered ignoring it, but something curiosity, perhaps, or the desire for closure made her respond. 30 minutes. That's all you get. At tea precisely 8 o'clock, the elevator to her penthouse opened. Callan stepped out, looking diminished somehow. His bespoke suit hung slightly loose, as if he'd lost weight in the 2 weeks since his removal as CEO. His eyes were bloodshot, his normally perfect hair unkempt. "You changed the security code," he said, as if this mundane detail was a personal affront. "I changed everything." Lennox stood by the window, a tactical choice that put the fading light behind her, making her face harder to read. "What do you want, Callan?" He moved toward the bar, then stopped when he saw it had been completely rearranged. Nothing was where he remembered. Another small reminder that this was no longer his space. "Can I at least have a drink?" "No." Lennox checked her watch. 29 minutes. Callan's attempt at composure cracked. "Do you have any idea what you've done? The board has frozen my assets pending their investigation. My reputation is ruined. Even my parents are questioning me. Actions have consequences. This goes beyond consequences." Callan's voice rose. "You've systematically destroyed everything I built. Because what? I hurt your feelings. You really don't get it, do you?" Lennox shook her head. "This isn't about hurt feelings, Callan. It's about years of manipulation, lies, and disrespect. It's about you treating everyone like we were disposable. That's not fair. I gave you everything. You gave me things." Lennox corrected. "Designer clothes, luxury vacations, a beautiful home. But you took something far more valuable in return: my self-respect. My identity." "That's ridiculous. You always had your own identity." "Did I?" Lennox stepped away from the window. "When was the last time you saw me dance? When was the last time you asked about my dreams, my goals? When did anything about me matter to you, beyond how I looked on your arm at events?" Callan ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so uncharacteristic that it momentarily surprised her. "Look, I know I made mistakes. I took you for granted. But this," he gestured around them, indicating the fallout of her campaign, "this is extreme. We could have worked something out." "Like what?" "Another chance for you to pretend to be faithful while sleeping with your next PR manager. Another year of me ignoring the lipstick stains and late-night emergencies at the office." "People mess up, Lennox. It's what humans do." "No." Lennox's voice was cold. "People make mistakes. You made choices. Repeatedly. Knowingly." Callan changed tactics, his expression softening. "Remember when we first met? That gallery opening in Soho? You were wearing that red dress, and you laughed at my terrible art jokes. Stop. We were good together once. We could be again. If you say you love me, I will throw you out myself." Lennox's eyes flashed. "You don't love me, Callan. You love the idea of me, the beautiful, supportive wife who never questioned you. That person is gone. She was never real to begin with." Callan's facade finally collapsed entirely. "Tell me what you want. Money? More shares? Your name on the company? I'll give you anything." "You still don't understand." Lennox moved to the door, opening it. "I don't want anything from you. Not anymore." "Lennox, please. I'm begging you." "You left me on the ground," she said quietly. "I took the sky. Goodbye, Callan." For a moment, he seemed about to argue further. Then, something in her expression stopped him. Without another word, he walked to the door, pausing at the threshold. "You'll regret this," he said, a final, weak attempt at regaining control. Lennox shook her head. "The only thing I regret is not doing it sooner." She closed the door behind him, listening to his footsteps fade down the hallway. Then, for the first time since that day at the airport, Lennox allowed herself to smile a real smile, unguarded and free. 6 months later, the headquarters of Nova Jet Line hummed with activity. The name change had been Oriana's idea, keeping a link to the past while signaling a new beginning. The rebranding had been immediate and comprehensive, from the sleek black and silver logo to the completely redesigned fleet interiors. Lennox stood in her office, reviewing the quarterly reports with Delia, who now served as Nova's CFO. Profits are up 17% compared to Maddox Jetline's final quarter, Delia said, gesturing to a chart on her tablet. And employee satisfaction scores are the highest in the industry. And our client retention rate, 94%. We lost a few of the old guard who are personally loyal to Callan, but we've gained twice as many new clients. Good. Lennox nodded, pleased but not surprised. How's the parental leave program working out? Delia smiled, her hand unconsciously moving to her slightly rounded stomach. Beautifully. 3 employees have already used it, and all have returned to work. The flexible hours policy makes a huge difference. And your doctor appointments? You're taking the time you need? Yes, Ms. Shaw. Delia's smile widened. My husband sends his thanks, by the way. He says I actually make it to dinner now. That's what this was all about, Lennox said, setting down the reports. Creating a company where success doesn't require sacrifice. A knock at the door interrupted them. Oriana entered, followed by Noor, who had signed on as Nova's head of digital strategy. Sorry to interrupt, Oriana said, but we've got news. Noor held up her tablet. Maddox just pleaded guilty to financial fraud charges. Part of a deal to avoid jail time. He's permanently barred from serving as an officer in any publicly traded company. And Jace? Lennox asked. No deal for him. He's facing at least 5 years. Lennox absorbed this information without visible reaction. Thank you for letting me know. Sensing the moment, Delia excused herself, taking the reports with her. Noor followed, leaving Lennox and Oriana alone. How do you feel? Oriana asked once the door closed. I don't know, Lennox admitted. I thought I'd feel triumphant, but mostly I feel relieved that it's over. Is it over, I mean? Lennox moved to the window. From her office, she could see the Nova Jetline hangar where their fleet waited, each plane emblazoned with the new logo. For Callan, yes. For me, it's just beginning. Auden called, by the way, Oriana said, perching on the edge of Lennox's desk. He says, if you ever burn another man down, he wants front row seats. Lennox laughed a genuine sound, free from bitterness. I think one corporate takedown is enough for one lifetime. So what's next for Lennox Shaw, aviation mogul? Expansion. Lennox turned from the window. The London deal is almost finalized. Paris, next quarter. Then Milan. She smiled slightly. And I'm thinking of taking dance classes again. Oriana's eyebrows rose. Really? Why not? I'm not living by anyone else's rules anymore. Lennox picked up her phone as it began to buzz with incoming messages. Now, we have a board meeting in 10 minutes. Ready to dazzle them with the international projections. Later that evening, Lennox stood on the balcony of her penthouse, overlooking the city. Her phone buzzed periodically with messages and emails opportunities, offers, potential deals. The business world that had once viewed her as merely Callan's wife now sought her advice, her approval, her partnership. She took a sip of whiskey, savoring the burn. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new battles to fight. But tonight, she allowed herself to simply exist in this moment of hard-won peace. Lennox wasn't looking for love. She wasn't seeking forgiveness or redemption. Those were luxuries she neither needed nor wanted. She had something far more valuable now: power, purpose, and the absolute certainty that she would never again allow anyone to make her feel small, that a slight smile tugged at her lips as she raised her glass to the glittering skyline before her, not in a toast, but in acknowledgement of a simple truth. The woman who had once been discarded on an airport tarmac now commanded the skies, and she was just getting started.